With that, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to our panel discussion and plenty more exciting authors and a whole lot of celebrities who are going to be gracing this stage. Let me quickly remind you, however, plenty of pictures that are being taken. You can always upload it on Twitter, Instagram, hashtag it blrlitfest. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our next set of panel that's going to be happening here on stage, a good night's sleep. Did you all get a good night's sleep last night? Yes. I've heard this, that you lose 2 hours of sleep and it could really affect your driving. So it's really important you all catch up on your sleep. I usually tend to catch up on my sleep on the weekend. Is there something called as catching up on sleep? I don't know. Some people say no. I prefer to differ. But ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Manvir Bhatia. She's a senior neurologist, an electropsychologist, and a sleep specialist. And she happens to be the author of the book, The Sleep Solution, Secrets for a Good Night's Sleep, the first book on sleep in India. There she is on stage. And this session is going to be moderated by Mr. Sumant. Mr. Sumant Batra is a lawyer, a cultural champion, a museum owner, collector, and writer. He's also probably the largest collector of Indian cinema memorabilia. So we'd all like a tour one of these days. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning to you, and I assume that all of you have had a good night's sleep of Saturday. It's quite unique to have a session on sleep on a Sunday morning when we all actually would want to laze around and catch up with a lot more sleep than we probably would have had in the week gone past. But I can assure you, having read the book myself in much detail and of having had the pleasure of discussing it in much detail with Manvir, that this is one subject which we all know very little about. And I was greatly enlightened. A lot of the clouds that I had around the whole concept of sleep were lifted when I read the book and had a conversation with her. And also a number of myths that you have around it because of your lack of information or understanding of the whole phenomena of sleep. Now, what is more interesting part about the sleep is that I believe 1/3 of our life we spend sleeping, isn't it, Manvir?
Yes.
And yet, we know very little about that 1/3 part of our life, which is a complete suspense and mystery as to what transpires, who controls, what kind of life we'll live in that 1/3 part of our lifetime, because we have very little control on that. And what we would try to do in this session through Manvir is to throw some light on that 1/3 component of our life in as little as 15 minutes of time, and probably try to also dissolve some of the myths that are around it and provide some clarity. So obviously my first question therefore to Manvir has to be, what is it that really happens in that 1/3 of your lifetime? Every night when you go off to sleep or even during the daytime, what is it that is transpiring? What is it that is really happening inside within us? We would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Sumant, and I'd like to thank Shiny and the Bangalore Lit Fest for having me here. So what happens in our body when we are sleeping? That's the main question that I have to address. So try and keep it, he said, very less technical. And to put it in simple words, we can give a couple of similes. One of them, which I found really interesting, was that imagine it's like a boardroom meeting going on in the brain. So I'm a neurologist, so I'll focus a little bit more on the brain. That's one reason. Secondly, there has been a lot of research recently about what's happening in the brain. Initially, for many years, it was thought that the brain and the whole body just shuts down while you sleep. That myth has to be discarded or at least taken away from our mind now, because we know sleep is an active state. So coming back to this boardroom thought, that little imagine people or little objects kind of come alive or alert in the brain. In other words, so there are some areas of the brain which become active when we sleep. In fact, those areas are the ones which become active only in sleep state, not in wake state. So that's one thing which happens. Second, I want to give an example to youngsters here, or to even whatever ages. Imagine if it's a room full of clutter, or if it's your living room or a bedroom, it's full of clutter. You do not have any space to put an additional, even a needle in it. That's what's happening to our brain, because when we are connected in this world and society, we have overloaded the brain the whole day. And the brain is full of things, situations, events, memories, faces, etc. We have no place to keep anything of importance the next day. So what happens in sleep? The junk is cleared. Imagine it's a cleaning process happening. It's like a vacuum cleaner going around and keeping the important things behind, getting rid of the junk. So I just want you all to think on this point, that if sleep is not adequate, and we'll talk about adequate when we get time, what would happen? So you wake up the next morning and the junk is still cluttered, or your head is still cluttered, or your brain is still cluttered. There is no place for extra storage. And that's the issue which a lot of people are saying now at all ages. I can't remember. I can't remember. I seem to forget. I can't recall. Because there's no place. So sleep removes the odd processes, helps in creation new memories, and also stores or cements what we know. So that's one part of brain. Second, I'll just touch a little bit about the hormones. We have a release of a lot of hormones which happen at night. In children, it's a growth hormone. But growth hormone is not only for kids. Growth hormone is for all of us at all ages. It builds the muscles, it builds the proteins, it builds our tissues. We'll talk about what it does to our face, etc. So lots of hormones get released. And the third thing is your heart. So the heart needs to slow down. We are pushing the heart at an enormous speed the whole day. It's pumping, beating continuously. So we need to slow it down. So while you sleep, the heart slows down, the blood pressure comes down. So in all, it's one of the most essential states, I would say.
Right. So in other words, it's both the software and the hardware which is being repaired and reconstructed during those sleeping hours when you actually either are, as you clean your hard disk, there's space being created and all the rubbish is being thrown out. And as far as the hardware is concerned, there is a lot of reconstruction that is happening, and depending on what age and stage of life you are in. Excellent. So obviously one of the most obvious question that arises is, why is it that we feel sleep deprived? Why is it that we have disturbed sleep? Why is it that we have sleep disorders? Why is it that we find difficult to sleep, or the sleep is not complete? We all know, of course, there are reasons which weigh in your mind now, which could be for the exertion that you've had, or things that may be bothering you, lifestyle, you may be working on night shifts. There could be a variety of reasons. We all know perhaps the reasons. Now, what we don't really know is the solutions. I mean, there are so many myths around it. The simplest one, of course, has been take a sleeping pill, and that will solve everything. Now, that probably, as I understood from you, is one of the most dangerous solutions that one can offer to it, and you would never really prescribe that as a solution. Would you like to talk about that a little bit? Because that's something which normally the normal tendency of everybody is.
So, in other words, I mean, we all know, or let's say that there are lots of conditions. We're not going to go into the conditions which can disturb sleep. What can be done to ensure that you have a good night's rest? So sleeping pill, I'll spend a few moments on what is the sleeping pill and what does the sleeping pills, what do they do? They are like a dampening effect on your brain, and we just discussed that what the brain needs to do. It needs to do a lot of activity. So imagine if you just put a weight or a cloud and dull the whole thing, the brain is not going to be able to do what it needs to do. So memories will not get stored, memories will not get created, memories will have a problem in recall. So one of the major disasters of the pills over a few years are memory disturbance. We talk a lot about memory because we are moving in all over the world to areas where the elderly are going to grow and the memory is going to become a big issue. So that's one part. Second, the sleeping pills cause tolerance. You will take one tablet, it will work for a few months, and then you'll say, no, I think it doesn't work, let me take another one. I have people who are taking 10 per night. They're getting up almost so it's almost frightening. So that's why I feel that the other thing that I was telling Sumant just a while ago, that we have this in all over the world, but I guess a little bit more in India, we love to give advice. So if somebody comes, but amongst friends, in the family, if people say, I can't sleep, oh, I take this, you also take this. It works for me, it'll work for you. So we need to devise something which is called as a winding down. Something called as a pre-bedtime ritual, which I've talked about in the fourth section of this book. This is a very individual thing. So we are not going to say that, okay, everybody should just do some pranayam. Everybody should just listen to some particular kind of music. Find your own tool, own thing which helps you to wind down.
How about a glass of red wine?
So wine and alcohol they are said to be substances or which can kind of slightly bring down your stress factors or your adrenaline levels which are pumping you the whole day. But the whole issue about many of these conditions where they are helpful is the quantity and the timing. So if we do not stick to that quantity which has been advised and the timing, they will induce the sleep, but they will fragment the sleep, meaning that you will fall asleep fast and wake up at 2 because the levels have drastically fallen in the body, and that's how most people are having a bad sleep post-alcohol.
Yeah. So one of the most interesting aspects about your book is that it's very simply written and explained. It's meant to be for a layman. I mean, you've actually stayed away from using very high, sophisticated, technical medical expressions. And you also, of course, explained the part which we discussed first in the book very, very clearly about light sleep, true sleep. What are the two components of sleep that you go through as categories of sleep. And also, you've, of course, also explained as to the causes of disruption and disorder, but also solutions. But, one of the things that which obviously we find very difficult to find an answer to is there an on and off switch to it? I mean, you can do all that you have advised in the book with regard to not watch televisions too close to sleeping time or have a drink or probably do too much of physical exercise, exert yourself physically, etc., etc. But yet, there isn't really essentially a on and off switch that the moment I sleep, I can tell myself go off to sleep. At the moment I go to bed, I can tell myself to sleep. But at the same point in time, what our elders used to tell us, and also what we used to listen to, that a lot of people saying that a physical labor is something which assures sleep. So a laborer who toils throughout the day, does physical work, actually finds it very easy to sleep, rather than those who actually do corporate work, etc., who do a lot of work on the desk, but not really physical work. So therefore, they are the ones who find difficult to sleep. How true is that?
So the first thing is about the on and off switch. So I wish there was. It would be very simple for us as people who are in this field that, okay, don't worry, just switch this on and off. Unfortunately, the brain doesn't function like that. So I don't have time to go into it, but there is a section which says what makes you fall asleep and what keeps you awake. So it's like a process. It's like a whole conglomeration of events which happen. Chemicals are released, they act on different parts, and they gradually put you to sleep. So we do not have an on and off switch. All the more reason that we need to define or find our own pre-bedtime ritual. Like I should tell people, make it 1 hour, then I said half an hour, then I say 20 minutes. Please switch off all the things that you're doing and do that for the last 20 minutes. So that's for the answer of on and off. The second part was?
Well, I think you've addressed that as well. The physical labor part,
so in a way. So the physical labor part, so the people say give us 2 tips or something simple. So 2 things that I think which are important. The body needs to be physically tired and the mind needs to be relaxed. So we cannot have one only and then the sleep is not going to be good. So physical tiredness, we do need to do something through the day which involves physical activity and, like I said, some relaxation. So combination of both will ensure you a good night.
Right. Now, in terms of the adverse impacts of lack of sleep, you did mention about the loss of memory and also, of course, some of the other consequences you've explained in much detail in the book. But one that sort of concerns us more in the common parlance is the obvious visible effects of it, the dark circles, the puffy eyes, all that is what really bothers us and makes us rush to doctors. I'm sure you get a lot of patients who come and say, look, I've got these dark circles, I'm starting looking ugly. And I'm sure it's not just confined to women anymore, it's men who are equally conscious of their looks now. And now, how does that happen? I mean, how does that reaction happen? And how do you relate it directly to the lack of sleep?
So this is a chapter which is called Sleep and Beauty. But like he said, I get enough number of men also who are very concerned about the dark circles. And especially when their sleep gets better, then they come and say, haven't you noticed that I'm looking much better? So I say, yes, I think you're looking much better. Or in sleep, the other process which I talked about was restoration action. So there's a tissue building which happens, and most of our face looks better, healthier, is because of this thing, some substance called as collagen, which gives you a little body. It also conserves moisture. So these processes which are happening in sleep, we need that many hours for cell building, renewal to happen. And if that doesn't happen, the skin will wear and tear. So the wear and tear will be visible. And that's what starts making one. In fact, there's a very nice research recently from Sweden. They showed 2 pictures, male's face actually, for lack of sleep and after a good night. And the furrows, the frowns, the circles are definitely much better. And I just want to continue with that onto one more thing which is very important with sleep, which I have talked about, is our mood and behavior. Aggression, impulsiveness, anger, they're all very related to good sleep, let's say. So good hormones or feeling good hormones are released or in a better quantity when you've had a good night versus a bad night. So I don't know whether this impulsiveness, road rage, anger as a society, in fact, some of the sleep specialists feel that it's all moving together. So the lack of sleep is coming up over the last few years. And generally, mental health is becoming a big issue in the last few years. So the face looks happier. So once the face looks happier, I think whatever, it will look prettier also.
Right. So tell us, I mean, all this golden word that hangs around something called power nap. Take a power nap, even if you have had a good night's sleep or you have that kind of lifestyle. Take 2 minutes of sleep after lunch, in office, whenever. Close your eyes, take a 2-minute sleep. Now, how important, relevant, and useful that is?
So power nap is actually an interesting tool, let's say, to help or renew or recharge your battery, which is dying. In India, we've had nap system for very long. In other places, also many parts of the world, especially the climates which are warmer, have a nap. So naps are good. The timing of the nap is crucial. We have a normal dip. Post-lunch sessions, everybody feels that dip. So that's a good time to coincide your nap. Duration of nap is a very important thing. So 15-20 minutes nap. If you have a 40 minutes nap, you wake up even more groggy. I don't want to go over it, but you've heard about the disasters which have happened in the airline industry because the pilot slept and, it's well documented, but had a longer nap. So when they wake up from that nap, they are groggy, they're not able to take decisions. So shorter naps, mid-afternoon naps, naps late in the evening to be avoided, they will interfere with your night. So power naps are good.
Right, and I'm sure. So yeah, so now one last question, and then probably open it to question answer for 5 minutes, which is about this, very interesting expression that you use in the book about sleep debt. And we all sort of, believe that if I haven't been able to sleep tonight for full 6 to 8 hours, which I might need, I can make up for it by sleeping for another an hour or so tomorrow night. Now, how true is that? I mean, do you think that oversleeping for one more day, one night, would really compensate for the loss of sleep on the previous night?
So sleep debt is for the people who are not familiar with the word, it's a debt which you owe to your own body. So if your body or if you require 8 hours of sleep and you get 6 hours, it's a 2-hour debt. And if you do this for 6 days in a week, it becomes a 12-hour debt. So in short, the answer to that question is that usually it's not really easy to pay that debt. Maybe one night debt, but for a couple of nights debt, it's not possible. And the recovery sleep which is needed to cover a 2 hours debt is about 3 to 4 times. So that cannot happen. Number two, the hormones which are going to peak at night will not peak in the day. So the recovery sleep will only be a sleep. It will not serve the functions of what the sleep should do.
Well, thank you so much. We have about 5 minutes for 5 to 7 minutes for questions, and I will. So we'll probably take 2. But my only request is that please avoid personal advisory kind of questions. Let these be general questions so that the answer can benefit all of us rather than just one individual. So the gentleman there was the first one to raise his hands, and in the blue shirt. So, and sir, if you could just introduce yourself and keep the question very short, so that we can make the most of it.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Mr. Anant. I'm working as a consultant in design engineering. Basically, about power nap, I wanted to have clarity. Because of office hours, it is not possible to do it in the post-lunch, what you were recommending. Because I've been practicing it after I reach home in the evening, where it is 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Will that be okay?
No,
So it
she
depends.
said no.
It depends what works for you. If you think that doesn't interfere with your night sleep, okay. If it interferes with your night sleep, it's not a good idea.
Then it's not a good idea. Yes, the gentleman in the orange there at the back, please. Just.
Hi, I'm Arjun. I'm a second year engineering student. I just had I think it's something that affects all of us. While sleeping, we have a tendency to look at our phone and scroll through Facebook, etc., etc. And I don't think it's only youngsters, because I've seen my parents do it too, right? Whether it's with their Kindle or whatever. My question was, one, how do you avoid that? And because I know it can't just happen in one snap. It has to be a gradual let go of the activity you're so used to. The second question would be, is it really that bad? Because ultimately you do fall asleep.
Yeah, so is it really that bad?
So it depends. If people who get the sleep disturbed and are able to fall asleep, that's okay. But we don't know what happens to your quality of sleep. We've not talked about that. You need to spend a certain amount of time per night in light sleep and deep sleep. If you wake up a couple of times, look at something, you will enter into a light sleep. So your deep sleep proportions might get less.
Right.
Yeah.
The gentleman at the back.
Yeah,
he's got a mic.
talking about sleep, what about dreams? I know it's a bigger subject, but I used to have a lot of good dreams. Sometimes I have very scary dreams.
I think we decided
can
that we
translate
will
it?
keep that subject out, because one is slightly different from the territory of sleep, and also it's getting into a very, very difficult and complex territory, which will open a lot more. Yes,
We'll hold our dreams.
a lot more issues.
We have room for one more question.
Yes, let's
One
do
more
it. So the
question.
gentleman here at the front who had stood up, yes, please. Yeah. So take the mic, sir, please.
You talked about the importance of physical activity before sleeping, right? So is there a time limit before which you need to complete that? Because I've exercised in the night and I've not been able to.
Yeah, so
fall asleep.
there is again the timing. So like the power nap, there's a timing. So if you do the physical activity late at night, a lot of people are coming back from work, going to the gyms actually, and I'm not in favor of these 24-hour gyms which have opened up. You are stimulating your body. So anything which stimulates will interfere with sleep. So preferably before 6 to 7 p.m. should be the timing.
Well, I'm sorry, I am being indicated that we have done with our time slot. Yes, and Manvir would be going to the bookstore, and please feel free to chat her on the way, as well as there. She would be available to sign the book. And I can assure you that this is one book which you will never regret having bought. I have read it already twice, of course, for a different purpose, but already everybody in the family is asking to borrow it. So please, I strongly persuade you to buy this book. Thank you, Manvir, for your lovely work.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for them.
Thanks.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Manvir Bhatia. Sleep Solution, Secrets for a Good Night's Sleep, the first book on sleep in India. And thank you so very much, Mr. Moderator, Sumant Batra, sir. Thank you once again. Thank you so very much.